I had the idea that it could happen, but I never dreamed it would be this bad.
Teachers hurt on the job in Indiana classrooms, a disturbing reality uncovered by Call 6 Investigates.
Those numbers to me are just so high, and something has to be done because really we shouldn't be having any.
And only on RTV6 tonight, for the first time, you're hearing directly from teachers who say this problem has reached a breaking point in our schools and your children are at risk.
Call 6 Investigates' Kara Kenny has been tracking this issue for months and joins us with why some say Indiana classrooms are in chaos. Kara.
Mark, we put together a survey asking teachers if they've been injured on the job and if their injury was caused by a student. More than 400 educators responded, and most told us yes. In fact, many are thinking about leaving the profession. It's a problem that's largely remained hidden until now. And now one teacher is coming forward after getting hurt her first month on the job.
Very excited, very looking forward to having my own classroom, and then it just quickly went downhill.
One of Hannah Mooney's students in her classroom at Elwood Elementary took up most of her time, and Hannah says the second grader was violent.
It was to the point where every few minutes we were dealing with an outburst that resulted in him turning the room upside down.
Hannah says she and other teachers begged administrators for training to deal with the situation. Hannah says that training did not happen. And 2 weeks into her teaching career, that student had a meltdown and was put in a consequence room here at Elwood Elementary School.
And next thing we know, it sounded like a bomb went off. He had broken the door handle off and it hit the metal instead. My ear was on the other side and it went straight into my ear.
Hannah suffered 80% hearing loss in her right ear and now relies on a hearing aid. Everyday activities are now difficult, even things like watching TV or taking a walk.
Describe what it sounds like right now.
It just sounds muffled. Like muffled is my biggest word.
We asked to speak with the Elwood school superintendent, and he declined. But records obtained by Call 6 Investigates show Hannah's incident is one of 14 staff injuries involving students at Elwood schools since the 2017-2018 school year. Some injuries Call 6 found include a substitute teacher stabbed with a pencil, a school nurse bitten, a teacher's aide kicked by a student. And Elwood is not alone. Call 6 Investigates filed records requests with 24 school districts in central Indiana for teacher and staff injuries involving students. We counted more than 1,500 incidents and found all kinds of injuries, from teachers being hit in the face, punched, and headbutted. After Call 6 Investigates exposed this issue in November, we couldn't get any employed teachers to talk with us.
So many people are scared to come forward about it because of, blacklisting. There's just the stigma around it.
So we asked this group of retired teachers to weigh in. They have nearly 100 years of combined experience in the classroom.
I've had children that have thrown things at me, and there were a lot of teachers that were injured by students, either by, throwing desks at them or kicking them.
When we asked these retired teachers an important question,
Why do you think this is happening?
their responses
The students do not have consequences.
were nearly the same.
It's unacceptable behavior, and there should be consequences for it.
The lack of consequences for behavior.
Janae Hanger, founder of the Positive School Discipline Institute, has a different take.
Why is this happening?
Most classrooms are safe, but there are some classrooms that have very negative learning environments. If a teacher is not safe in the classroom, neither are her students.
Hanger says when schools take harsh, zero-tolerance approaches to student behavior without looking at why a child acts that way, it puts students and staff in harm's way.
We need to start getting to the root cause of behavior and starting to address those root causes of behavior before they escalate into things we can't address.
Teachers we talk with say large class sizes and a lack of school counselors put them at greater risk for injuries. The Positive School Discipline Institute has trained employees from 54 schools.
Man, just that is a big step
On how to build relationships among teachers, administrators, school police, students, and parents. Hanger says the approach can help prevent situations like the one that Hannah went through.
We need more training, and anytime you lock a kid in a room, You're escalating the situation. You're not calming it down.
Hannah Moody is still struggling to live with hearing loss. She's taking a new direction with her career and is now studying to get her master's in library science.
Are you giving up teaching?
Yes.
What is that like?
Heartbreaking, sad, because that's what I wanted to do. But to go back in the classroom, I don't trust anyone anymore. I don't trust that I'll be supported.
As you can imagine, this was a difficult story for Hannah to share. This was her lifelong dream, to teach, and now she tells me she can no longer imagine being in a classroom again because of what she went through.
Oh, people are talking about our Call 6 investigation that exposed teacher injuries.
And you just heard Hannah say the solution is more support for teachers. You told us on Facebook what you think is the solution. Many say it comes down to parenting, and that it's moms and dads who are at fault when their kids assault teachers and staff.
Call 6 Investigates Kara Kenny talked to some of those parents and found out what they wish you knew.
At first glance, Erica Hahn's son Spencer is a typical teenager goofing off. But this 14-year-old's life has been anything but easy.
He had a stroke in utero, and so 2/3 of the left side of his brain never formed. Because of that, he has autism, seizures, oppositional defiant disorder.
At times, Spencer has been violent, including at school.
He will lash out and act out. So there have been multiple times where he has hit teachers or kicked them or spit at them. He has had issues on the bus with bus drivers, principals, and staff.
What is that like as a mom?
I mean, it's hard because you know your kid's brain is essentially on fire and they are doing the best they can.
She knows what people think. Erica read the comments on our teacher injury investigation.
What did you think when you saw the Facebook comments that constantly said it's about parenting?
I wanted to cry. Like I wanted to comment on every single one and I didn't.
What do you say to people that say you're a bad parent?
I'm the same kind of parent as you are. We just have different things. The system is completely collapsing, and the kids are the ones that are suffering, and the teachers.
Erica has paid the price. She's had the Department of Child Services investigate her for child neglect. Allegations she says DCS ultimately did not find credible. Erica now works from home. She lost her job because she had to leave work so often to get Spencer. Keeping violent students out is one approach schools take. In Dearborn County, Katrina Bell's 8-year-old son Marquise was arrested and charged with battery after he allegedly punched and kicked a teacher and principals.
He had a meltdown. He does have a behavioral disorder, and at times he melts down.
Katrina snapped this picture of her 8-year-old son eating a jail meal when she arrived at the juvenile facility.
It broke my heart when I went into the intake room to be with him, and he just ran to me and just held on for dear life, and he said, I feel like I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
That was very disturbing to me as a mom, you know. He's 8 years old.
His mom says locking kids up and charging them with crimes is not the answer to preventing teacher injuries.
They really need to have better training, I feel.
Janae Hanger of the Positive School Discipline Institute agrees training for all school staff is the answer.
It's not appropriate to put a kid in a detention center that is that young. There's a trauma when you arrest a child. There's a trauma. They fall behind in school. They become labeled. They're stigmatized.
Hanger says it's the school's responsibility to create a safe environment for teachers and students.
Right now, we have over-relied on school police, and we've under-relied on school counselors and social workers and school psychologists.
The Positive School Discipline Institute is a year-long program that's trained teams from 54 schools, not just teachers, but school resource officers, principals, deans, and other school personnel. It costs time and money, and the state does not require this kind of training for school staff.
So he's going to act out so that you put him out.
Teachers who've gone through this training say they see why it's important to develop relationships with their students so they can work out problems long before things get physical. Like Katie Hamsel, a 4th grade teacher at Matchbook Learning Charter School.
If I see them getting frustrated and mad, I stop and we talk, or I give them space.
Katie says the training was eye-opening.
A lot of schools are just strict discipline, and it's not working, so.
She can understand how this type of training can help prevent student outbursts and teacher injuries.
You don't have the background in restorative practices or understanding that the relationship and what the childhood trauma, what they're going through, absolutely, I can see where it could be an issue. You just have to be proactive instead of reactive.
Both Erica and Katrina pulled their children out of their schools. Katrina is looking at options, and Spencer now gets bused 3 hours a day to a school that's better able to accommodate Spencer's disability. Erica says our state does not have enough schools and services to help students with special needs.
At the end of the day, we're all just parents, and we're all just trying to do the best for our kid. And there's always a backstory, and I guarantee that the majority of the parents are fighting just as hard as I do to get their kids the services they need. And I guarantee none of the kids are bad kids.
The reality is a lot of these teacher injuries are caused by students with special needs. In fact, one school district told us last school year of all of their staff injuries, 79% involve students with special needs. The Indiana State Teachers Association listed teacher safety as one of its top priorities this legislative session. And one of the solutions to the teacher injury problem was Senate Bill 220. It would require principals to report physical assaults to police. However, this bill failed to get a hearing this session. I'm Call 6 Investigates' Kara Kenny.
Lawmakers are taking measures to prevent teachers from being injured on the job. It's a problem Call 6 Investigates told you about last week in our Classrooms in Chaos investigation. And now our Kara Kenny is taking teacher and parent safety concerns directly to state lawmakers.
Our Call 6 investigation found hundreds of Indiana teachers injured on the job by their own students. We took our findings here to the State House to find out what state lawmakers have to say about it.
Hannah Moody was a teacher in Elwood, but she left the profession after losing 80% of the hearing in her right ear.
So you lost almost all of the hearing in this ear?
Yeah. Yeah, and I was dizzy for a long time, like my equilibrium was off, which is strange.
The injury happened during a second grader's outburst. She says she didn't get training at her school, nor did she learn about preventing injuries when she was in college.
That's just something they don't even really teach you in college, you know.
Our Call 6 investigation surveyed 24 school districts and found incident after incident of teachers injured on the job by their own students. We took our findings to state lawmakers, including one who is a teacher.
What was your reaction or your response to our investigation?
So I watched that story twice. Actually, I'm not surprised. I feel like this is happening all over, and I'm in my 32nd year of teaching, and so I've seen many of these issues ramp up repeatedly over the last, especially 5 or 6 years.
Representative Melanie Wright says she's never been injured, thankfully, but says Indiana needs to invest more money in school social workers and counselors and reduce its emphasis on test scores.
So instead of having that playtime and that social skills development time that we usually see in kindergarten and part of first grade, that's kind of being pushed out or pushed down to pre-K if kids are lucky enough to go.
Representative Dale Devon filed House Bill 1283. It urges colleges and universities to include trauma-informed training for future teachers.
So when a child has a meltdown or an outburst, the teacher can recognize a child that's dealing with trauma in their life and try to get them and help them manage that child a little bit better, that they're not just throwing them out in the street, so to speak, or to the principal's office.
Students today are dealing with poverty, drug use, and domestic violence in the home.
And when these kids come to school with those issues, they're really not in the mindset of learning.
Do you think this bill would help reduce teacher injuries?
I think it would help teacher injuries. I think it would help teachers' success rate. I think it will keep our teachers in the classroom much longer and help them succeed.
The Indiana State Teachers Association supports the legislation. Creating a safe and supportive learning environment for all kids builds resilience in students who experience trauma. Public schools play an integral role in neutralizing the negative impact trauma has on kids' health and their ability to learn. Representative Devon says the hope is to eventually train all Indiana teachers, but he says this bill is a good first step. Hannah Moody supports lawmaker efforts to train teachers on student trauma.
I feel like this is acknowledging that it's a problem. You know, obviously, I can't have my hearing back, but I'm going to make the best of the situation and hopefully get back into teaching in a different form.
Reporting from the State House, Call 6 Investigates, Kara Kenny.